There are secrets that George W. Bush guards at least as carefully as any entrusted to a president. Secrets he's forbidden to share even with the vice president. Secrets he's held ever since his days at Yale, where in his senior year, like his father and his grandfather, he belonged to Skull and Bones, the elite secret society whose members include some of the most powerful men of the 20th century. All bonesmen, as they're called, are forbidden to reveal what goes on in their inner sanctum, the windowless building on the Yale campus called the Tomb. There are conspiracy theorists who see Skull and Bones behind everything that goes wrong and occasionally even right in the world. Apart from presidents, Bones has included cabinet officers, spies, Supreme Court justices, statesmen, and captains of industry, and often their sons, and lately their daughters. A social and political network like no other. And to a man and woman, they've responded to outsiders with utter silence. Until an enterprising Yale graduate, Alexandra Robbins, managed to penetrate the wall of silence for a book she called Secrets of the Tomb.
I spoke with about 100 members of Skull and Bones, and they were members who were tired of the secrecy, and that's why they were willing to talk to me. But probably twice that number hung up on me, harassed me, or threatened me.
Because bonesmen do not talk.
Right.
Secret or not, Skull and Bones is as essential to Yale as the whipping poos. The table's down at a pub called Maury's, and the Yale mascot, that ever-slobbering bulldog. We are poor little lambs who have lost our way. Skull and Bones, with all its ritual and macabre relics, was founded in 1832 as a New World version of secret student societies that were common in Germany at the time. Since then, it's chosen or tapped only 15 senior students a year, who, when they graduate, become patriarchs, lifetime members of the ultimate old boys club.
Skull and Bones is so tiny, that's what makes this staggering. There are only 15 people a year, which means there are about 800 living members at any one time.
We know that a lot of bonesmen have gone to positions of great power.
That's what Skull and Bones' purpose is, to get as many members as possible into positions of power.
Though there is this mythology about Skull and Bones pulling the strings of government. You're saying that the fact is Skull and Bones are pulling the strings of government.
They do have many individuals in influential positions, and that's why this is something that we need to know about.
President Bush has tapped 5 fellow bonesmen to join his administration. Most recently, the head of the Securities and Exchange Commission, William Donaldson, Skull and Bones, 1953. Like the president, he's taken the Bones oath of omerta, silence.
I don't believe that people who represent our country, especially the President of the United States, should be allowed to have an allegiance to a secret organization.
Ron Rosenbaum, author and columnist for the New York Observer, has become obsessed with cracking that code of secrecy.
I think there is a deep and legitimate distrust in America for power and privilege that are cloaked in secrecy. It's not supposed to be the way we do things. We're supposed to do things out in the open in America. And so that any society or institution that hints that there's something hidden is, I think, a legitimate subject for investigation.
His is a 30-year obsession dating back to his days as a Yale classmate of George W. Bush. Rosenbaum, a self-described undergraduate nerd, was certainly not a contender for Bones, but he was fascinated by its weirdness.
This sepulchral, tomb-like, windowless, granite sandstone bulk that you can't miss. And I lived next to it. I had passed it all the time. And during the initiation rites, you could hear strange cries and whispers coming from the Skull and Bones tomb.
Despite a lifetime of attempts to get inside, the best Rosenbaum could do was hide out on the ledge of a nearby building a few years ago to videotape the nocturnal initiation ceremony in the tomb's courtyard.
a woman holds a knife and pretends to slash the throat of another person lying down before him, screaming and yelling at the neophyte.
Alexandra Robbins says the cast of the initiation ritual is right out of Harry Potter meets Dracula.
There's a devil, a Don Quixote, and a pope who has one foot sheathed in a white monogram slipper resting on a stone skull. The initiates are led into the room one at a time, and once an initiate is inside, the bonesman shriek at him. Finally, the bonesman is shoved to his knees in front of Don Quixote, sort of as the shrieking crowd falls silent. And Don Quixote lifts his sword and taps the bonesman on his left shoulder and says, "By order of our order, I dub thee Knight of Eulogia."
A lot of mumbo-jumbo.
A lot of mumbo-jumbo, but it means a lot to the people who are in it.
There's also an obsession with death and its trappings, and with skullduggery, literally.
Prescott Bush, George W.'s grandfather, and a band of bonesmen robbed the grave of Geronimo, took the skull and some personal relics of the Apache chief and brought them back to the tomb. There is still a glass case, bonesmen tell me, within the tomb that displays a skull that they all refer to as Geronimo.
The preoccupation with bones, mortality, with coffins, lying in coffins, standing around coffins, all this sort of thing, I think, is designed to give them the sense that, well, it's very true, life is short. You can spend it, if you have a privileged background, enjoying yourself, contributing nothing, or you can spend it making a contribution.
And plenty of bonesmen have made a contribution. From William Howard Taft, the 27th president, to Henry Luce, the founder of Time magazine, to W. Averill Harriman, diplomat and confidant of U.S. presidents.
What's important about the undergraduate years of Skull and Bones, as opposed to fraternities, is that it imbues them with a kind of mission for moral leadership. And it's something that they may ignore for 30 years of their life, as George W. Bush seemed to successfully ignore it for quite a long time. But he came back to it.
A born-again bonesman, you might say, who, like his father and grandfather before him, has refused to talk openly about Skull and Bones. But as a bonesman, he was required to reveal his innermost secrets to his fellow Bones initiates.
They're supposed to recount their entire sexual histories in sort of a dimly lit, cozy room. The other 14 members are sitting on plush couches, and the lights are dimmed, and there's a fire roaring. And this activity is supposed to last anywhere from between 1 to 3 hours.
So George W. Bush, recounted his sexual history?
That would have been something they would have done, yes.
What is the point of this?
I believe the point of the year in the tomb is to forge such a strong bond between these 15 new members that after they graduate, for them to betray Skull and Bones would mean they'd have to betray their 14 closest friends.
One can't help but make certain comparisons with mafia, for example. Secret society, bonding, stakes may be a little higher in one or the other, but everybody knows everything about everybody, which is a form of protection.
I think Skull and Bones has had slightly more success than the Mafia, in the sense that, the leaders of the 5 families are all doing 100 years in jail, and the leaders of the Skull and Bones families are doing 4 and 8 years in the White House. Bones is not restricted to Republicans. Yet another bonesman has his eye on the Oval Office. Senator John Kerry, Democrat, Skull and Bones, 1966.
As we speak, we have the very real possibility of the next presidential election picking one bonesman, John Kerry, versus another bonesman, President Bush.
It is fascinating, isn't it? I mean, again, all the people say, oh, these societies don't matter, or the Eastern establishment is in decline, and you could not find 2 more quintessential Eastern establishment privileged guys. I remember when I was a nerdy scholarship student in the reserve book room at the Yale Library, and John Kerry, who at that point styled himself John F. Kerry, would walk in at JFK, yes. There was always a little buzz, because even then he was seen to be destined for higher things. He was the head of the Yale political union and a tap for Skull and Bones was seen as the natural sequel to that.